Can I tell you something? When I first started teaching yoga, I wasn't as confident as I am now. In fact, I had plenty of moments where I questioned whether I belonged at the front of the room. To be perfectly honest, I still do. If you've ever felt that way, you are not alone. Confidence isn't something you have or don't have. It's something you build. You strengthen your confidence by getting the reps in. And today I want to share my journey of how I did just that so you can see what's possible for you too. I'm Sage Roundtree, and this is Yoga Teacher Confidential. My path to teaching yoga wasn't exactly straightforward. As you may know if you've listened to other episodes of this podcast, I actually hated my first yoga class. It was harder than I expected, full of manual corrections and confusing Sanskrit. By the end, I desperately had to pee, but I was afraid to leave the room during Shavasana because I didn't know the protocol. If my reaction had been merely neutral, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast right now. It was actually my intense negative reaction that made me curious enough to try again. And then it all clicked when I tried prenatal yoga during my first pregnancy, where I found that I was more open to the sense of connection and union that yoga offers. When I entered yoga teacher training in 2003, I'd been out of the classroom for just a few years, having spent my educational career learning how to teach English literature. But teaching movement while talking about it is very different from guiding composition classes or debating symbolism and poetry. It's next level stuff to both be moving, describing the movement, and cueing your students into it. Often it felt like starting from square one, but I kept doing it. And some of that was saying yes to many teaching opportunities early on, like from the jump. My second ever yoga class that I taught was rather unexpected. I went as a student to take a class with my regular teacher, Brian, but he didn't show up. His car had broken down. When everyone started to leave, disappointed, I raised my hand and I said, wait, I can teach the class. I had taught exactly one class the night before, but I thrust myself into the role because I knew those students needed a guide. Was I qualified? Barely. I'd taught one yoga class before. Was I confident? Not at all, but I did it anyway. In those early days, I felt like I needed to prove myself by teaching the perfect sequence, by memorizing every cue, by never making a mistake. I thought my students were judging me when they had blank expressions on their faces. I took it personally when someone left class early or when students didn't come back. But over time, something started to shift. I realized that the more I made it about my students and the less I made it about me, the more relaxed and the more effective I became as a teacher. When I focused on serving them instead of impressing them, my confidence naturally grew. A key turning point came for me when I was teaching a football player, a big, muscular defensive lineman. I approached to assist him in a reclining twist, and he saw me coming, held up his finger to stop me, adjusted himself so that my assist wouldn't crush his privates, and then gave me a thumbs up. I realized in that moment that my students have their own wisdom about their bodies. They know way more than I ever could. They can and should make choices for themselves. I don't need to control everything. This is so freeing. Every teacher, no matter how experienced, starts from a place of uncertainty. Imposter syndrome is real. Our yoga teachers trainees often ask me, when did you stop feeling like a fraud? And that question makes me smile because it presumes that I have ever stopped. Some days I still feel like I'm not experienced enough or perky enough or whatever enough to lead my students. And friends, I do it anyway. Confidence isn't about knowing everything. It's about trusting yourself enough to show up and keep learning. It's about recognizing that your students don't expect perfection from you. They just want a guide who cares about their experience. The things that helped me grow, like leaning into my strengths, refining my approach, and embracing imperfection, are the same things that can help you build confidence too. Remember that in your yoga class, you are not the hero. You are the guide. You're simply there to hold space for your students' heroic journeys. When you step out of the spotlight and put your students at the center, so much pressure lifts off your shoulders. Here are some practical lessons I've learned for building confidence as a yoga teacher. First, reframe your doubts. Instead of thinking, I don't know enough, shift to, I'm always learning. The moment when you recognize how much you don't know is actually the beginning of wisdom. Embrace being a perpetual student. I'm always learning. Second, start before you feel ready. Teaching is what makes you a better teacher. You can't become confident by just thinking about teaching or planning the perfect class. You have to actually do it, and then do it again, and again, and again. I like to tell our newer teachers, fake it till you make it. With time, you will feel more authoritative, but recognize that some days you won't, and on those days, show up anyway. If I taught only when I was in the perfect mood to teach, I would not be teaching at all. Third, lean into structure. Tools like the 642 framework we talk about in the Art of Yoga sequencing help you walk into class with a plan, so you feel prepared even on tough days. Having a consistent structure to your classes gives both you and your students a sense of stability. Fourth, simplify your teaching. Repeat your lesson plans with only minor variations week to week. You'll save hours in planning and prep time. And do less in class too. You don't need to fill every moment with your voice. Don't try to prove your worth by constantly talking. Instead, issue a clear direction, then be quiet and let your students enjoy their practice. Fifth, remember that confidence comes with repetition. The more you teach, the more you realize you can handle whatever happens in class. Someone leaves early, you'll be fine. You forget what comes next in your sequence, you'll figure it out. A student asks a question you don't know the answer to, you can say, I don't know, but I'll find out. It's just yoga. And finally, center your students' agency. When you trust your students to make their own choices, you remove a huge burden from yourself. You don't have to be the expert on their bodies. You are just there to offer options and let them decide what works best for them. I'd like to offer an affirmation to help you remember this. I don't have to be perfect to be effective. I don't have to be perfect to be effective. If you are working on building confidence in your teaching, I would love to help. I have whole books, courses, and CEU trainings dedicated to making you a better guide for your students. Come join us in Comfort Zone Yoga, my virtual studio for yoga teachers. There you will find mentorship, resources, and a community of fellow teachers who are on the same journey. Remember, confidence isn't a destination. It's a journey of continual growth and learning, and it's a journey worth taking. I'm Sage Roundtree, and this is Yoga Teacher Confidential. I'll see you next time.